All right, Nick, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks because this team embodies one phrase, and that phrase is hard work pays off. When Seattle traded away Russell Wilson last offseason, we all know that anyone in the NFL would have them left for dead, but hard work pays off. Geno Smith comes out, becomes one of the premier passers in the NFL. This team, just as a whole, worked really hard, and it paid off. They were very good last season. Everyone was impressed with what was put on the field. That product was something special. But Nick, this offseason, some key players on the defensive side of the ball have also been working very, very hard. And one guy in particular got his just desserts when he was given something special. And this story today, I think Seattle fans are going to love.
Yeah, it's just another great example, another great decision by Pete Carroll and the entire organization. Kind of embodies what the Seahawks bring to the table. Great report you dug up. But before we get into that, look, kickoff only a few short days away. Football is finally back. Seahawks fans, you guys open up against, of course, division rival Los Angeles Rams. And now's your chance in the comment section below to give us your prediction for that game, the final score, Seahawks versus Rams, kicking off the NFL season. Put it in writing, bring the receipts. You guys are smart. We love talking Seattle football because you guys are a really educated fan base. We know you guys have really smart opinions when it comes to these kind of predictions. Now's your chance. Put them in the comment section below, your prediction for Seahawks Rams. But all right, Miles, what you got? What's the latest out of Seattle?
Yeah, Nick, let's jump right into the article. I'm going to run through it and then we can talk about it on the other side. This is, of course, over from at Seattle Sports. It says, during Wednesday's Brock and Salk on Seattle Sports, former NFL quarterback Brock Heward shared what stood out to him about the Seahawks depth chart. It starts on defense at a very key position. It says, Trey Brown beat out Mike Jackson, Heward said, of one of the team's two outside cornerback spots. Mike Jack had an unbelievable offseason, and Mike Jack coming into training camp was the talk of camp. Seahawks coach Pete Carroll was so excited about what Thriller, that's Mike Jack, had done. It apparently wasn't enough as Brown is listed as his team's starting left cornerback opposite Pro Bowler Tariq Woolen. Heward thinks Brown beating out Jackson goes back to Seahawks' always compete mentality under Carroll. If you're going to preach competition, and that is going to be the staple of your team, when 41% of your roster is first and second year players, then you know what you've got to do? You've got to back up that talk. You've got to walk that talk, Heward said. And when somebody beats out the other guy, and it's pretty clear to the room, it's pretty clear to the whole DB room, like, yes, Trey Brown was better than Mike Jack in those 3 preseason games, then guess what? You're going to run out with the starters on Sunday talking about Brown. And Nick, that is what happened. Brown won the starting job. He is going to be the starter against the big game, the first game of the season against the Rams. And this guy, he's earned it, Nick. And that is what I love. A meritocracy, a guy who puts in the work, shows out in the preseason games, and he's rewarded for it. Because how many times do we hear about young guys coming in preseason, they're working hard, they're doing their best, maybe they do really well in the preseason game, then they get cut, or then they get buried in the depth chart. This is one of those stories, but gone right, and I really love this for the Seahawks. Nick, what do you think about this story, and what does this mean for the Seahawks going forward?
Yeah, to me, this just exemplifies everything great about what Pete Carroll does in terms of a coach, in terms of how he evaluates who's going to play, who's going to make the team, and his overall strategy. I think it's a lot of really good stuff here. I think the first thing to focus on is the authenticity of what Pete Carroll brings to the table. Like Howard mentioned, like this is a guy always competing, always, competition for who's going to get playing time, who's going to be the starter, things like that. Actually being authentic to that and giving it to Brown, even though Jackson had a really nice offseason. We don't see a lot of authenticity sometimes in the coaching ranks. A good example of that is Jonathan Gannon from the Arizona Cardinals, right? I don't know if anyone's seen the memes or the videos of this guy, but he looks like just looks fake, right? It kind of looks like a little bit of like a chump sometimes on what he puts out there media-wise right now. You don't get that from Pete Carroll. He is who he is, and his culture is what he sets in stone. That's exactly what he lives by, and I think it's great that he does it because it's one of those things. If you're inauthentic as a head coach, no one will follow that the rest of the way down. People will lose faith in you in terms of how you're going to lead the team, what strategies you call. They'll lose faith in the coordinators and the plays they call. That's an issue that happens in a lot of locker rooms. And look, I'm going to be honest, I played college football. There were a lot of times our coach would always talk about it's a meritocracy. The best player is going to play. And it turned out that wasn't even remotely the case. The coaches had favorites. Maybe there was a recruit that they personally recruited, and another guy who was competing for that spot was recruited by a different coach. Guess who usually won out the starting job? The guy that coach personally recruited, even though everybody in the locker room, I can't tell you the number of times we had guys at some positions that would be starters. And we're like, why is that guy starting? The two guys behind him are better. Why are we playing this guy? He's not that good. Happens all the time. And when that does, you lose faith in your position coaches, your coordinators, and your head coaches, and you normally stink. And listen, the teams I were on in college, as much as you know, were not very good. The Seahawks under Pete Carroll have been outstanding, mainly because Pete Carroll and all of his disciples and assistants underneath him are completely 100% devoted to the principles of competition, winning the battles, depending how your performance on the practice field and on game day. They are sticking to it here, and that's why I love this move by Pete Carroll. It's one of those moves where if you look at it, it doesn't make amazing headlines. It doesn't look like a game changer. But if he hadn't stuck with the meritocracy in terms of how he's picking who wins, I guarantee you that would have set a seed in the locker room that would have hurt them the rest of the season. Not the case here. It continues to go in the right direction for the Seattle Seahawks. And look, Pete Carroll gets a lot of credit for what he's done, but I don't think he gets enough. Great job in terms of building and maintaining the culture here in Seattle.
Yeah, Nick. And I'm sure Jackson was kind of, he's not happy about losing the starting job, but at least he probably thinks, well, this guy had a really great offseason. He kind of maybe sees where it's coming from. And like we said, in business and whatever realm you are in currently, it's how things are in the real world. If it's like that good old boy system, people are getting promoted and you're like, how's this guy the boss? It really, like you said, it promotes a bad work environment. And this team is their work environment. If it's that meritocracy, like you said, I think this is going to be a good work environment. And I think if anything, Jackson will just try to work even harder to win back his starting spot rather than be scorned, be upset and say, hey, this isn't fair. I'm the better guy, yada, yada, yada. Because it seems like everyone saw how good Brown had done. So I don't think this really, took him by too much surprise when he loses his starting spot. Maybe this will motivate him even more in the future.
Yeah, it's a great point there, right? It's iron sharpens iron. If you know you're not the starter because the other guy just played better, you just know, okay, what's the easiest way to become the starter? Play better than that guy, right? And then when that happens, then the other guy's like, well, if I want to be a starter again, I'm going to play better than that guy. You're constantly building on yourself and getting better and better. Iron sharpens iron. The team gets better. The culture gets better. And it all goes back to Pete Carroll and how he runs his football team.